welcome to Relish Books. Today I am finally talking about How Green Was My Valley by Richard Llewellyn. And I finished this about a week ago, and I made about 5 videos trying to talk about it and deleted them all because it's hard to talk about. I think because it's a book that is interesting to talk about, but only if you go into particulars. And it's not, you would have to sit there and explain who all the characters are in order for me to be able to talk about the actual things that I really liked about it and stuff. Because it's not a plot-driven story at all. It's completely a setting and character-based story. We know about character-based stories, but I don't know if I've ever read a book that was so very setting-based as this one was. But I had I'm going to try to keep the video short because I feel like I can't really talk about it without going into particulars, and I don't think that would work very well. But I had very mixed feelings about it, so I'm just going to try to shortly explain a little bit of those. I have very positive feelings at times, very negative feelings at times, from start to finish. Yeah, it was interesting. It was one of those books where one huge thing kind of ruined it. Not completely. There were still a lot of good things, but so it's a book that is, like I said, it's completely setting based, and the setting is this small Welsh coal mining town. And kind of over the course of this 20-year period, the growing up of the main character from very young childhood to adulthood, it's, as far as the setting, it's largely looking at the strikes and the unionization of these coal miners and their struggles and, uprisings, the hardships from that, the controversies over that, the way that it kind of divided people. And it was really interesting, too, to see how, at the beginning, the union seemed like if they could be done in a reasonable way, it would be a very good thing. And then kind of throughout the course of the story, you see a shift and a change, and instead of being these organized unions, they're kind of these unruly, violent mobs, and that are really tearing people apart. So that was all very interesting. I enjoyed all of that. The other big thing about the book that I did really like, again, the character-based part. The story mainly revolves around the Morgan family, a very large family. I think that there are 9 children. I think I counted at some point, but I don't remember. I think it's 9. But the family dynamic was a lot of fun. The parents' marriage was really really great, really fun to read about, kind of inspirational too. It's not a relationship that you see portrayed in books very often, and just in all the little things, because it didn't delve into it. This is just a child's perspective. This is just the way things were. This is the way they were, and that was really great. The family struggles, the family dramas, a lot of them are much bigger dramas than a lot of us are going to encounter in our lives, or more different kinds of drama. Some of it was very, very dramatic, but we all know what family drama is like, and family tensions and all of that. Even though it's in this very, very different culture from anything we're used to, all of the family stuff felt very real and really hard in some ways, but always really beautiful too, because it's something that you really strongly connect with, even if that's not really your background. I think it's something that people can strongly connect to. So really love that general overall family dynamic. All the kind of add-ins were really interesting. The marriages that happened. I like the perspective of this young child, because he's the main character is the second to youngest in this family. So all his older brothers are kind of these, they're these adults basically, almost from the time he can remember. And that's just a really interesting perspective. So I loved all of that. I loved one of the best things about the book kind of becomes the saddest thing to me in the book. Because, like, at the beginning, you have this feeling of a culture where the village, the valley, is a family. They're a very, very close-knit community who are constantly in each other's homes, just part of each other's lives. They're woven together, and that's something that we don't really experience in our modern world very much at all. And that was just really fun to read about. And then you see, with the strikes, with, and people just like growing up and changing too, I guess. But especially with the strikes, especially with some of the, inner workings of the church drama in the town, which is also a very real, feels like a very real thing. You see the village just become torn apart and divided, and these people who used to be, family to each other are destroying each other's lives by gossiping about each other and, assuming terrible things, believing bad things about people, spreading malicious things, and just tearing each other down instead of being there for each other and building each other up. So that, to me, was honestly, that was the most, there's a lot of tragic things in this book, but that was the most tragic to me, I felt like. The whole book is sad. The tone of it is sad. You know that from the beginning. Like, even the title, How Green Was My Valley, you know this is a sad book. You know it's a nostalgic book. It's this, opens with, like, the old man looking back across the years. He's, like, old, alone. His family's all dead and gone. And the valley is, the coal mining has just completely destroyed the valley, environmentally. And, he's looking at all this waste and emptiness and then looking back over his life. So, it's a sad book for sure. But I loved the setting. I loved most of the characters. The problem comes with the main character himself. The only character, like, there are some awful, awful people, but they still work as characters. The only character that I just could not stand as a character is the narrator. And that's a big problem because the story is told by him. There's a lot of other, people who are very important, but ultimately he's at the center of the story. And I just could not stand him. Really, really didn't like him. And it's hard to explain exactly why without having read the book. I think anybody who reads it would probably, even if they don't agree, would probably understand where I'm coming from. It's mostly his tone. I really don't like his tone. And there's some concrete things too. I think he is a huge hypocrite. I think he is very arrogant, even though he tries to play it off like he's not. I don't think the character's supposed to be represented as being that way, but he just is in the way that he acts, in the way that he speaks. He's very quick to show himself to be, like, wise beyond his years in these other matters. He will judge other people's actions and morality and motives, but then do terrible things himself and kind of justify it. And, he's coming from a good place because it's him, basically. So, I just felt like he was a really annoying, big-headed hypocrite. And he's the main character. And it's more frustrating. It would be like a character like that can work if the author's aware of it, if the character is aware of it, or if the other characters are aware of it. Like, if that's what their character is. But that's not really what his character is supposed to be. That's just, like, what you get from it, or what I got from it. And so, that really ruined a large part of it for me. And there are moments where he gets kind of put in his place, like things that he had just completely justified in his mind that were very wrong. And you're like, what are you thinking? And then somebody does, like, kind of come along and correct him, and he maybe sees from their perspective a little bit. But very, very right in his own eyes type of guy. For no good reason. It's like, all these people are older than you and wiser than you. You just need to shut up and listen. Yes, he's very annoying. So, those are my thoughts about the book. A lot of beautiful things in it. Yeah, a lot of beautiful moments, a lot of wonderful characters. I love the kind of Welsh sound of it, the dialogue, all their little manners of speech, their little phrases. Really, really enjoyed all that. It reminded me a lot of an old black and white movie. That part of it is set in a Welsh coal mining town, and even a lot of the names are the same, and the way they talk is the same, and their culture of like everybody singing and the voice being so integral to their community. Sorry, I keep having to stop and cough. My throat has a tickle. Anyway, yeah, a lot of that reminded me of the movie A Run for Your Money, which I wish more of that movie actually took place in the town. Most of it takes place in London, but yeah, it reminded me a lot of that, and I loved that. So it's frustrating because like loved most of the characters, I love the setting, but the main character kind of ruined it for me. This was a book, and it's rare for me to cry in a book. I actually did cry at one point in this book when one of the kind of main characters loses her husband in a work accident. And I think being married, that just, for me, I don't know, it hits you differently. And like, just something that she said about that, it was just this very simple little thing that she said about that, about her loneliness. I was just like, that's so sad, because like, I read somewhere about writing that sometimes if you want your readers to really feel the emotion of a character, it's better to make your character like very calm and like not crying in a deeply emotional situation, and their lack of like emotional release will make you as the reader feel that emotional release for them. Whereas a lot of times if you're reading a book, I've noticed this a lot, where a character is like crying, you don't cry because you feel their emotional release through what you're seeing. Is actually really annoying to me when characters cry over and over in books. That there's a book that's like that the character is just literally crying all the time. I don't remember what it is, but like I certainly never cried. Like if your characters are crying all the time, your readers won't as much. But yeah, just like this woman's calm, but you feel that deep loss. That was really well done. So a lot of the writing was really, really great, really well done. Some interesting ideas going on in there. I didn't fully love all of it, but definitely worth the read. I wish the main character hadn't been such an absolute stinker. So those are my thoughts. Sorry this video is kind of broken up. I kept having to pause it to cough. So sorry about that. And yeah, finally finished this book. Hopefully I will be back with more reviews soon. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.